Chosen one, before you take another breath, before another thought flickers across your mind, I need you to understand something that is going to shake the foundation of everything you thought was familiar about your life. Your calling, your spiritual reality, and the unseen forces that have been surrounding you since the day you came into existence. Because last night, while your body rested, while your mind drifted into the gentle quiet of sleep, while the world remained unaware, something took place in the realm that governs all realms, in the dimension where time bows, where angels take their positions, where truth stands as a blazing river, and where the will of the Almighty unfolds without hesitation. And that event was so unprecedented, so astonishing, so shockingly divine, that archangels who have witnessed galaxies form and empires fall stood still, wings folded, breath quieted, in absolute reverence for what was decided concerning you. You have not yet fully perceived the magnitude of what unfolded in the heights of heaven, but your spirit has been trembling with the residue of it since the moment you opened your eyes this morning. That strange pull in your chest, that unexplainable awareness hovering behind your thoughts, that sense that something invisible is brushing against the edge of your reality. Because chosen one, last night was not ordinary. Last night was not routine. Last night was not symbolic or metaphorical. Last night was the night the scales shifted, the records changed, the verdict was spoken, and the destiny written for your life before the formation of the earth was brought out from the sealed archives and placed directly into motion in a way that cannot be reversed, resisted, sabotaged, or delayed by any force in existence. Last night the heavenly chambers opened, and in those chambers your name echoed like a proclamation carved in fire. And angels who have carried messages to prophets, defended nations, and overturned darkness at God's command began to speak of you, of the endurance you carried when no one saw, of the silent battles you fought while pretending everything was fine, of the prayers you whispered when you thought even heaven might be tired of hearing your voice, of the faith that refused to die in you, even when circumstances strangled every hope you had left, of the tears that slipped from your soul and touched the ground as silent offerings. And with every word spoken, the room shifted, light intensified, and something ancient older than written time reawakened. And as those reports were laid before the throne, the Almighty did not hesitate, did not question, did not delay, but spoke a decree so final, so thunderous, so drenched in authority that the spiritual infrastructure of your life snapped into alignment instantly. He declared that the season of testing that has stretched across your years like a shadow is over, completely and permanently over, not paused, not extended, not to be revisited, but finished. And as soon as that decree left his mouth, waves of glory surged across the courtroom chambers like a storm of living fire, sweeping away every accusation, every lie, every curse, every binding word that was ever uttered to diminish your calling. And chosen one, this is the part that caused even the archangels to exchange glances in wonder, because God didn't simply end your testing. He initiated your elevation, your restoration, your unveiling. And it wasn't done quietly. It wasn't done subtly. It wasn't done in secrecy. It was done with a roar that shook spiritual kingdoms and collapsed structures that had been standing against you for years. Structures built from betrayal, structures built from jealousy, structures built from hidden sabotage, structures built from the silent intentions of people who smiled in your presence but conspired in your absence. Structures built from generational strongholds that tried to follow you into your destiny. Every one of them fell last night. And chosen one, you were the center of it, not because you demanded it, not because you earned it through perfection, not because you manipulated outcomes, but because heaven remembered you, because heaven honored what you survived, because heaven decided enough is enough. Last night wasn't a spiritual meeting, it was a spiritual uprising in your favor. While you slept unaware, your destiny underwent a shift so intense that even creation responded. Winds rebalanced, timelines reorganized themselves, angelic forces repositioned their ranks, and the events of your near future began rearranging like pieces on a cosmic board. You felt something this morning, didn't you? A heaviness that wasn't sadness, a pressure that wasn't anxiety, a quiet electricity humming beneath the surface of your thoughts. That was the aftershock of spiritual chains breaking, of verdicts overturning, of blessings being released from places where they were held hostage, of promises that seemed delayed, suddenly being commanded into acceleration. Chosen one, I need you to understand that last night the Almighty did not simply review your story. He rewrote its trajectory. He lifted your scroll, the divine record of your purpose, your calling, your assignments, your battles, your victories, your inheritance. And as the light of His presence hit it, everything written by the hands of your enemies, everything distorted by pain, everything hijacked by fear, everything manipulated by darkness, was wiped clean. And then, with a gesture that sent ripples across eternity, He released your next season. Not a season of waiting, but a season of fulfillment. Not a season of endurance, but a season of reclaiming. Not a season of wandering, but a season of stepping into what was delayed. And while all of heaven erupted in awe, one by one, the angels approached your scroll, Michael, the commander of God's armies, who has been fighting battles for you that you never knew existed, lifted his sword in a declaration that no force would ever again trespass on what belongs to you. Gabriel, the messenger who brings the announcements of heaven, looked upon your story and marked the time, your time for manifestation, for restoration, for divine release. And chosen one, this is where everything changed, because last night the lies spoken about you were brought before the throne as evidence. And when the truth was revealed, when the intentions of those who worked against you were exposed before the holiness of God's light, judgment was issued, not human judgment, not revenge, not earthly retaliation, but divine justice, the kind of justice that restores what was stolen, multiplies what was lost, elevates you beyond the reach of former enemies, and places you in rooms they never expected to see you enter. And chosen one, heaven didn't stop there. For the first time in your life, the spiritual doors that were sealed shut by resistance, sabotage, or timing opened with a force that rattled through dimensions. Last night, keys exchanged hands, doors opened, barriers collapsed, assignments activated, angels were dispatched. Blessings that were held back for years began moving toward you like rivers breaking through stone walls. Unstoppable, undeniable, irreversible. And while all of this was unfolding, archangels whispered among themselves, will the chosen one recognize it? Will they feel the shift? Will they understand what has been set in motion? They wondered because heaven already sees you stepping into a completely new reality, but you are only just beginning to feel the tremors of it. The world around you didn't announce it. Your phone didn't notify you. No headline declared it. But heaven did. Creation did. The spiritual realm did. And now, chosen one, this message is reaching you because heaven refuses to let you walk into this new season unaware or unaligned. You are standing at the threshold of the greatest divine reversal of your life. And the only thing heaven is waiting for is your agreement, your awareness, your willingness to step into what has already been decided in the courts of eternity. Chosen one, everything has changed, everything, and the story that once felt heavy, delayed, or forgotten has now been ignited with a glory that cannot be undone. Days when your heart limped under the weight of unseen battles. Seasons when betrayal from those closest to you twisted like a blade in your soul. Moments when you begged God for answers and heard nothing. Hours when despair circled your spirit like a predator waiting for your collapse. And those angels laid each memory before the throne. Not to condemn you, but to show heaven how you persevered, how you resisted bitterness, how you continued to hope for light even while standing in shadows, how you kept believing even when your belief trembled, and Scripture validates this testimony. For God is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love. Hebrews 6:10, and heaven declared last night that nothing you have endured has been overlooked, ignored, dismissed, or rendered meaningless, because every tear became evidence, every heartbreak became currency, every trial became seed, every endurance became testimony, and God used all of it to build the foundation for what He released over you. And then, chosen one, a shift so violent and glorious erupted through the courtroom that the floor of heaven vibrated. Yes, even heaven reacted physically, because the Father stood, and with a voice that quaked through eternity, He spoke, "Remove the restraints." And instantly, chains that had clung to your destiny for years, chains formed by generational cycles, by word curses, by internal fear, by spiritual interference, by hidden sabotage, by delayed timing, by broken trust, snapped like fragile threads, disintegrating into dust that evaporated into nothingness. And Scripture affirms this power. For whom the Son sets free is free indeed. John 8:36. And last night, chosen one, you were not partially freed, not symbolically freed, not emotionally freed. You were spiritually, legally, eternally freed from everything that once claimed authority over your progress. And just when the angels thought the moment had reached its climax, another revelation shook the room. A figure stepped forward, an angel assigned since the day you entered the world. An angel who had guarded you through accidents, temptations, spiritual attacks, betrayals, losses, and silent nights where you felt completely alone. And this angel held something wrapped in cloth, woven from heaven's breath. And as he approached, Gabriel stepped aside, Michael lowered his sword, and the Father gestured for the cloth to be opened. And when it unfurled, what lay inside glowed with a brilliance that caused even the stars outside heaven's gates to shimmer. In response, it was a mantle, a spiritual garment, not like the ones given to prophets of old, but something uniquely crafted for your calling. And Scripture confirms such moments. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, an holy nation, a peculiar people. 1 Peter chapter 2:9. And last night, your mantle royal, radiant, resurrected from seasons that tried to destroy you, was placed upon your scroll, signifying that what God has appointed for you can no longer be delayed by man or demon or circumstance or time. And heaven erupted. Light exploded like waves crashing against the shores of eternity. Trumpets that had not sounded in centuries blared with the force of 10,000 storms. Angels shouted your name in celebration. The courtroom vibrated with the sound of redemption fulfilled. And you, yes you, chosen one, were marked for a divine turning that nothing can reverse.